Recording. According to Apple, it's 6:32, and I will call this meeting to order. Just usual public service announcement with an added, looking for everyone's patience tonight. Joyce will not be with us, so I'm on my own for tech and everything. So if I need a second, I appreciate everybody's patience. And as a reminder, this is a public meeting, but it's not a town meeting. So just let's mind our P's and Q's and remember that this is for the board to conduct their business. Thank you. First item is the approval of minutes. I will make a motion to approve the April 21st regular, the May 5th regular, and the May 11th special meeting minutes.
Can I, even before we do that, Jean, could we amend the agenda, or is that after this?
We can do it either, but so yeah, you can go
I
ahead.
have something to say about the minutes as well, if that's all right.
Sure. Do you want to make a motion to add something to the agenda?
The agenda, yes, please. I would like to, I suppose it's new business, although it might not be, but maybe 7.2, just the town hall IT company. I would just love to just have a general chat about Yucatec.
So yeah, we need a motion on that.
Okay. I would like, I move to talk about the town hall IT company and whether or not we should continue with them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
And just,
Oh,
and to,
Hang
oh,
on
sorry.
one second.
Sorry.
Okay.
And then two very small items. I don't know how we do this, but just looking at the agenda, 7.1 is Main Street. It should be noise and traffic and not nosy. So that was just an interesting thing. And then 8.2, the town hall large meeting room and video equipment system updates. But I think we were also perhaps talking about the small conference room as well. Should that be added to that? Yeah.
We can correct it for future agendas, but I think we can leave it as is because we all know what was passed in the motion.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. Okay, that's good. That's all.
So do you want to go through edits to the minutes before I make the motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you. And it's just the one regular meeting. It's the May 5th regular meeting. And I actually noticed this the last meeting on these minutes. But on page 2, it says Kent flag policy. And then it says Glenn Sanchez : and then the very next thing it says Gene Speck made a motion to accept the Yucatec quote for the hybrid room hardware. So it kind of goes straight from Kent flag policy to Yucatec. So I don't know if something's missing there.
Yeah, so let's not approve those minutes tonight.
Okay,
So we can have Joyce go back and take a look at them.
that's fine by me. Yeah, the other two seem to be fine with me, but it's just that May 5th.
Rufus, did you have anything for any edits?
Nothing major that I saw, but
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the April 21st regular and May 11th special meeting minutes.
Second.
Anything further? All those in favor?
aye.
Thank you. So I'll loop back with Joyce on the May 5th on that second page.
Yeah, that's all.
Under correspondence, we did have a piece of correspondence that Debbie DeVoe sent in. And I will, it did not get in the folder, but it was sent to you, to the board in email. It it writes, Dear Kent Board of Selectmen, I am writing to express my displeasure at the idea of flying another flag on the same pole that holds the United States of America flag. Our flag is a symbol of all this country has been through for centuries. Sharing a flagpole should just not happen, should not happen. Fortunately, there is a solution, a second flagpole. A second pole could be placed at the end of the flagpole garden, in quotes. An estimate to purchase and install a second flagpole is under $3,000. I would also like to suggest this Board of Selectmen dedicate this pole to John Lindsay, who is a longtime dedicated town employee. John made it his responsibility to raise and lower the flag every day and observe all of the proper procedures. I hope you will take the time at Thursday's meeting to read this email aloud. It would be very nice if the second flagpole was dedicated to Johnny on Flag Day, June 14th. And I see that Debbie is on the call.
I just would like to reiterate that I do feel very strongly about adding another flag to the flagpole. And I guess one question would be, are you planning on making this a policy to have different flags from different events and occasions or holidays or whatever? Or is this proposed new flag just a one-off?
So I spent a long time reading US flag code in the last couple of days. And I sent to Randy a request based on what Glenn had proposed last month for Randy to draft a flag guidance document. I don't know what it would be called because he needs to let us know, because we don't, as I said last month, we don't have a policy, just a standing policy list. We have ordinances and regulations and an employee policy and procedure manual, but I'm not sure where it would lie in that sort of portfolio of foundation documents. So I've asked that out to Randy. Flag code does allow for other flags and pennants, I believe they call them, to be raised on the same halyard. Obviously, nothing can go higher, but they can be raised on the same halyard as the American flag. So it is allowable.
Oh, yes, it is. It's just, do we want to do that in Kent, I guess is the next follow-up question.
Sure.
Didn't we talk about Boston and that Boston had different flagpoles?
Right. So the city, at their city hall, I think it is, they have 3 flagpoles. One was the American flag, one was the state flag, and the third one, over, I don't remember how long, allowed different organizations to request flying of the flag. And there ended up being, as Glenn mentioned, a court case because the city denied an organization that was a religious-based organization to fly the flag. And after reading the SCOTUS decision and their opinion, it went up all the way up to the Supreme Court. They pushed it back down to the First Circuit Court. And so that also makes me want to make absolutely sure that we're doing this the correct way and the legal way, especially because that SCOTUS decision was just like at the beginning of last month or the beginning of this month. So I handed it off to Randy to address to make sure that we're doing this correctly and legally.
I think there are several different ways of dealing with flags, obviously. So there isn't just one correct way of doing it. So decisions like having multiple flagpoles, do you want one flagpole simply for the American flag and then the other flagpole for whatever? I definitely like the idea of dedicating something to John, because he took that so seriously for so many years.
Yeah.
I agree.
So if the board is in agreement, we'll keep this on for the next meeting, and we'll follow up with Randy and get more information from Randy.
And Jean, you haven't heard from Randy about this yet?
No, I just sent him the email yesterday.
Okay.
And it was in follow-up to Debbie's email that she sent. Next would be public comment. And I will scan the room. I've got a lot of folks joining us, so bear with me. We have a very cute dog from Bain Real Estate joining us. Anybody with public comment? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Donna popped up.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I think Debbie's suggestion is a great suggestion. And I think it would be nice if you guys could at least vote on getting the second one up, because I don't think Randy's decision really will impact that. And then you can at least order it and then figure out what you could put on it. That would be my suggestion, instead of having to wait, because Flag Day, I think Debbie said, was June 14th. And you're going to be running out of time. So you could vote on that now, at least that portion of it, and then wait to hear what Randy says about what you can put on there. That's all. And I think dedicating it to Johnny, I think he would be very happy with that. You know, he took a lot of pride in putting up that flag every single day. So just my 2 cents. Thank you.
It's a really nice idea. And I do think that having at least another flagpole is a good idea. The placement, when you look at the space where the flagpole is currently, placing one more flagpole starts it. And I spent a while looking at the space. I think it would make more sense for us to actually move the main flagpole to behind the town hall sign, and then have 2 flagpoles. So we have a 3 symmetrical, a symmetrical view that from the road, it looks symmetrical and looks purposeful. I think that putting it in that front garden, it's a squeeze to put it in there, because the 2 flagpoles would be a little bit close together when you're talking about, if you have proper wind. And Rick and I were talking about it yesterday. I don't know if Rick's on the call. I think it would give a nicer look if we were able to move that to behind the sign and do it with purpose. Just my 2 cents. I see a hand up. Is that you, Donna? Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I'll put it down.
No, it's okay. Thanks.
I just a couple of things. In times when when folks don't ask for a commemorative flag, I mean, maybe we could put a Connecticut state flag there. I mean, I've seen Connecticut state flags in front of town halls. We don't seem to have one. That'd be nice as well.
We have a Kent flag.
Right, so we could have all 3 flying, and then have the third one have a,
Sure.
be an optional.
Okay. Do we know where this money would come from? What line item? Do we need quotes for this? I mean, what procedure do we need to follow?
I need to talk to Barbara,
Okay.
see if we can find where we
Would
would.
think
find
there would
funding
be
from.
money left over somewhere.
Yep,
Okay.
I think that putting up another flagpole is a good solution so that people who don't like the idea of multiple flags flying on the same one aren't offended if we do that, but we can still fly different flags through the policies that were laid out.
I agree.
And you know, spacing and whatnot, I'm sure there's information that's already been done. So, you know, we might have to move the original flag. So can we make a motion to push forward with this?
Rick, I see Rick's on the call. Rick, we can move that flagpole, correct?
I would think we'd have to buy a new base and everything because it's in concrete, but the pole itself, we could probably
Right.
move. With all of the anchor and that stuff like that would be very good to move it and try and reset it. That should just be in the tube with sand in it, so I assume we could get it out. And I see Ed's putting something in. If we did move the flags out there, then we'd be able to light them too with the
Right.
light out there.
So by the code, in order to leave the flag up, has to be lit. And right now it has to come down every day because there's no light. But if we moved it over to the sign, it would be lit so they could stay up all the time. So I'd like to get some prices on moving that flagpole and then having three behind the sign if the board's in agreement on that. When you look at that, when you look at the garden, I don't know, to me, it looks like it would be not purposeful, and it would look like an afterthought in my mind when I look at the layout and where it is in the front yard. I would love to have it done by the 14th. Looks like we're gonna have a special meeting anyway, so about another topic that will come up later, but if you can give Rick and I a couple of days to get some pricing back from the company.
I don't mind a special meeting. This is important. So.
Okay. So Rick will look into doing 3 movement, and I'll talk to Barbara about funding.
Okay.
Alrighty. Tax refunds, I'll make a motion to approve 1 tax refund totaling $28.56 as submitted.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The treasurer's report, Barbara is, I believe she's at a Cornwall Board of Finance meeting right now. So she submitted her report a little while ago to the board in writing. So we'll make sure that gets into the minutes. Moving on to new business, Main Street Noise and Traffic Committee presentation. And who am I handing off to here, Glenn? Is that Chris behind the pooch there?
I see Andrea's here, and who else from my group here?
Who's going to be making the presentation?
I mean, I can, except I thought maybe Chris Garrity would be here. Andrea, I mean,
Chris, it looks like Chris is here and he's the chair of our committee.
Right.
I logged in because he wasn't at our special meeting on Tuesday, so I didn't know exactly what we were doing, so I could give it, but I think he should give it because I'm also dealing with this.
Chris, can we have you come on camera and off mute? If you can hear us.
I can do it if we need to.
Okay, why don't you start, Andrea? Thanks.
Okay. I guess for the record, my name is Andrea Shaney, and I am the secretary of the Town of Kent Main Street Noise and Traffic Subcommittee. And we met on Tuesday to ratify our initial report for the Board of Selectmen. And this report, this initial report focuses on only one aspect of what we have been discussing, which is getting DOT support. Our next report will look at enforcement, and then our third report will look at like public safety and just overall education. So our recommendations in this initial report include expanding the village zone beyond the present location to just sort of push out the the zone, like what's considered Kent, like downtown Kent, in order to increase safety and awareness for, especially for visitors who come to our lovely tourist town, to know that they're entering a very busy space that includes lots of stores and residences and lots of pedestrians. So that would be pushing it on the sorry, let me go. So we want to expand it, and then within that expanded village zone distance up in all directions of the two state highways is then reduce that speed limit in that village zone to 25 miles per hour. And then we have recommendations for at the traffic light and the crosswalks, and then instituting school areas. So if I go point by point for the village zone.
Andrea, do you have anything to screen share that we can sort of follow
yes.
along? That would be
Sorry,
great. And Chris did come on camera.
Oh,
I
Chris,
don't know if you wanted to toss in here too. Oh, and let me just make sure we're on. Hang on. All right, I just changed the function so you can share.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I have two screens. Okay, so that should be sharing. What am I sharing?
So we're looking at a Google Doc that says the title is Noise Traffic Report, and there's some photos and then some bulleted points.
All right, so I am sharing the right thing. Okay, sorry, thank you. Okay, so here's our 4 recommendations up here that I just briefly ran through. So expanding the village zone. So if we look at the details of that, expanding the village zone, especially on Route 7, on Route 7, so South Main Street and beyond, is putting the village limit sign further south to encourage traffic to slow down prior to any of the private entrances on Route 7. Currently, the straightaway, people pick up speed leaving, basically gunning it at my house, or when they're coming into town heading north, they aren't stopping or slowing down until the traffic light, and they're going past people's homes and the greenhouse and all of that coming into town really fast. So just pushing that out to make sure that people know that they're entering Kent.
Can you make it a little bit bigger, Andrea?
Yes.
Thanks.
Control. Whoop. Too big.
That's great.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So then on the north section of Route 7, the existing area where it starts It's 40 miles an hour and then drops down to 30. And we recommend moving the speed limit sign north to just after the Sloan Stanley Museum, encouraging drivers to slow down prior to the entrance of Cobble Lane. And that has to do with what already exists, Cobble Lane. And it's really hard to see when you're turning from Cobble Lane out onto Route 7, and also has to do with the 13 home subdivision that was approved, adding more cars entering and exiting Route 7 there with more frequency. So that is our safety considerations there. Then looking at 341, on the east part of 341, heading into the village, the limit's not posted until after the entrances to the transfer station, the Kent and the town garage. And then there's even more going on with the firehouse, Templeton Farms, and other residences like on the Maple Street extension. In the 2016 road safety audit, they noted high speeds for westbound traffic on Maple Street, which is, you know, the eastern portion of 341 in town, and limited sight distance. So we want to have the village zone marker, like say you're entering Kent, across from Dr. Hudson's dental office. On the western portion, the straightaway coming in from, you know, from New York, from Macedonia Brook Park area, there's a blind corner, it's a high risk. And we noted that there was a motorcycle versus car accident after a Kent School sporting event in the recent past. The speed limit is also confusing. There are different speed limits posted. There's a 35-mile-an-hour white sign, and then a 24-mile-an-hour caution, 25-mile-an-hour caution sign. So we recommend adding the village zone, or establishing the village zone, to beyond Scatticoke Road, where the Kent welcome sign currently is. And Chris made this map. So we're not changing it too much, but just by sort of pushing it out a little bit and understanding, you know, Kent has expanded quite a bit since speed limits and signage and everything was put up. So in recognizing that and understanding, you know, how things have changed and what the actual use is, you know, people going too fast coming into town and not really adjusting their speed till they have to, aka a red light at the one intersection in town, that we're hoping by expanding the village zone that helps that part. And then within this village zone, we want it to only be 25 miles per hour. Currently, it's 30 miles an hour on Route 7 and 35 miles per hour on 341. We want it to be consistent at 25 miles an hour in all directions. And two towns that also have 25-mile-an-hour speed limits on state highways include Sherman and Torrington. So it's not unheard of that we would be that we could be the same. Additionally, we have very dense traffic flow, as dense as Torrington, and definitely more dense than Sherman from all directions. And we noted in the details here that, you know, there's a lot going on. We have Kent School, Kent Center School. There are buses, cars, children, people walking, doing what they need to do. The fire department, the town garage, there's lots of slow moving vehicles coming onto 341, which probably wasn't, you know, that wasn't the case when these speed limits and the signage was introduced. Like the firehouse was not there until relatively recently. So there's a lot that's changed in Kent that we are just asking DOT to kind of catch up to us. And we want to be, we want to encourage, we don't want to say like, we don't want them to come back and say, oh, there's never been any accidents, so it's not a big deal. We're trying to be proactive here and prevent anything from happening. So then the third section, is about the traffic light and the crosswalk. We want to improve signage to keep the intersection clear for turning trucks and equipment. There's currently only one stop here on red sign for westbound traffic on 341. And that's due to the intersection's acute angle, which makes it difficult for large vehicles to turn from South Main Street if you're heading north, and then you turn right to go eastbound on 341 if the westbound traffic is up at the crosswalk instead of at the solid white line where it says stop here in red, then it's very dangerous and cars and trucks cannot turn. So that's what's existing and that's why it's there. People don't really follow it. So we are recommending to have no turn on red signs at all the intersection parts except for at southbound Route 7 to the westbound Route 341. We just want a yield sign there, and that's because there is that separate right turn lane. And this came from the 2016 road safety audit report. So we're not just making things up, we're following this very detailed 64-page road safety audit that, you know, DOT did come out and do this walk around with leadership from Kent back in 2016. They also suggested adding a lead signal phase for left turns from southbound Route 7 to accommodate the flow of traffic on North Main Street because it gets very congested. The second thing we want to do at the light is increase the walking time. The existing pedestrian crosswalk time is 17 seconds. We recommend increasing the time to 30 seconds. It's pretty no to low cost strategy. Currently, the pedestrian crosswalk is a protected cross. All vehicular traffic stops at the same time, so all directions have a red light when the white walking person signal is lit. And we noted that the distance can be a challenge when you think about the distance of each of the crosswalks to cross the intersections can be a challenge. And in that short 17-second time, and most people elect to cross on the hypotenuse from the southwest corner, the big yellow Victorian, to the northeast corner where Swift Restaurant currently is, and they bypass the crosswalks on South Main Street and Maple Street in order to cross with enough time during one cycle. DOT does not want to encourage people crossing on a diagonal or on the hypotenuse. So by increasing the walk time to 30 seconds, we can decrease the number of times vehicle traffic is stopped by pedestrians having to push the walk button again. You know, if they only can make it from from the yellow Victorian to the gas station and then have to wait again and press it again and go from the gas station to Swift. And that would also decrease the likelihood that people will cross on the diagonal because they'll be able to safely cross within already designated painted crosswalks within the longer time frame. And will improve the safety for all pedestrians, especially those who have slower ambulation speeds. So community ambulators cross at approximately 2.6 feet per second, and they can negotiate curbs, sidestepping obstacles, people, signs, animal strollers. But limited community ambulers would also be using the crosswalk, and they have a speed of at least 1.3 feet per second. And this data is from physical therapy research journals. And these people are still able to walk on uneven surfaces. So it's likely that people who walk this slow would still be walking and using our streets. I can think of an example right here in my lap. When he doesn't want to be in his stroller, he wants to push it instead. He has short little less than 2-year-old toddler legs, and we go pretty slowly. But also there's Templeton Farms, which is senior housing. So there are people who may be using rollators or walkers or need physical assistance who both live in town and would be visiting our town. There are lots of people of all ages that come. So the way we got the 30 seconds was using the slowest rate of the expected populations that would use the crosswalk multiplied by the longest crossing distance. And it got to 29 seconds. So I rounded up to 30. And this section just looks at, who is really using our crosswalk. And if we want to discourage the safety issue of people crossing on the hypotenuse, guilty, then we should make it easier to cross safely within, crossing to the lengths of the intersection at once. And then for all the other village crosswalks, except for the traffic light, because we already discussed that, we want to reinstate the crosswalk safety pylons. I didn't live here yet when this was instituted, but they were previously removed, concerned about liability, repair, and scheduling challenge. So, but we'd like to reinstitute it because it is effective visual notification for vehicles that this is a crosswalk and it's been proven useful. And we just want the Board of Selectmen to look at how can we support that with, a town employee putting them up and taking them down during summer hours in order to follow DOT's regulations. The fourth section, our last section, is looking at a school zone, really highlighting that when you're on Bridge Street, so 341 West, you're dealing with Kent School and Kent Center School, and it generates a lot of pedestrian and vehicle traffic. And we want to make sure, so we're hoping that the whole section will be 25 miles an hour because we want everything to be 25 miles an hour, but we want to designate a non-regulatory school zone on Route 341 West per the Division of Traffic Engineering guidelines on school zone signing. And this is just information about why we think it shouldn't be why it should be a non-regulatory school zone, because we wouldn't be able to regulate it like school zone ahead, fines doubled, and those kind of things. So that's information about that. And the school speed limits in school zones can be established after investigation and approval by the OSTA. And so those would be in effect during school hours. And then we just have some examples of what is currently there, and it does include school crosswalk signage, but it doesn't actually explicitly state this is a school zone. So we want to expand the village zone beyond the present location, reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour in the new village zone, increase the traffic light crosswalk timing to 30 seconds, install no turn on red and yield signs at the traffic light on those parts of the intersection that I discussed, reinstate the safety pylons in the village zone crosswalks. So on North Main Street and the one at Elizabeth Street on Bridge, and institute a school zone area on Route 341. I know you have so much to say. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yes, on a lot of levels. First, sorry, I've been dealing with a crisis on my side. Nothing too significant for most people, but for me, I had to deal with it. So thank you for your patience and waiting for me to jump on. As you saw, Andrea jumped in and was very fluid and understood and was able to convey quite clearly our thoughts. That is because the group that we were working with was phenomenal and is phenomenal. One might think that this is maybe a non-issue, or one might think that this is something that's we can't handle. This group decided we could handle it, but we broke it down as Andrea said, and in bites. The first one is DOT. We did reach out to DOT, asked if they could sit down and talk to us so that we could get input to them. They did not want to do that. I don't believe what they wanted to do is talk to town officials, and that's the three of you. So what we have done is outline very clearly what our recommendations are. They are based somewhat in the road safety audit and also the signage program, but it goes beyond that, as we say in our report, which is we're really looking at it from an intuitive, on the grounds perspective. And I think that's what you have to keep banging away at DOT about. I know they're going to go back on the way they do things, and yet what we're trying to avoid is a critical accident, number one. What we're also trying to do is encourage people to slow down for the sake of everybody. And most people are good, but as we know, not always. So with this, the committee subcommittee did a lot of work. I think we walked around a number of times. We went and took pictures, try to understand. We saw the incongruities and really things we don't understand. We don't understand why it's 35 miles an hour from east to west and 30 miles north to south. One would think it would be the other way around if indeed you were trying to, if you were talking about volume of traffic. But again, because we can't get that feedback from DOT, we asked the three of you to look hard at this report and attack it piece by piece. Some of this stuff seems fairly simple. Andrea pointed out just the shift in timing of the light for a walk signal should not interrupt too significantly. You know, the DOT's plan, if you will. I will go back and reiterate the 30 years that I've been here, 30 plus years I've been here, I have not seen really a change in signage or speeds or lights and such. But I have seen the acquisition by Kent School of a major building where now children come in and walk from the main campus to town quite a bit. And I don't think DOT sees that or understands that. We have seen the development of a new firehouse with a lot more apparatus. And I don't think DOT has really considered that as much. We have changed from a community of smaller shops to now heavy in restaurants, heavy on food establishments. So people are sitting out. We have people who are bicycling more. So while vehicular traffic may not have changed on the car count, I think we all know intuitively that the pedestrian flow has increased significantly. And that was where we started, pedestrian safety and flow. Everybody we've talked to is supportive of this. Kent School in particular, they didn't write a letter. If I asked them to, they would, but they clearly want their students safe, and they know that they are bringing a lot more traffic into town that way. So I want to impress again on the Board of Selectmen when talking to DOT and approaching them to give a little bit of pushback if indeed they just lean on their numbers and their science. Because I think that at least the four of us and people we talk to see it differently. Other than that, I think the next chore on our list is to really drill down and dig in on the enforcement component of it. And while I know it's uncomfortable for anybody to speak to a subcommittee, and we respect the fact that that's maybe not their line of action, we're going to endeavor to do that. Number one, to speak to the troop and see if indeed we can get some guidance as to what and how and why, because we're not here to try to change the world or to change their rules. We know that that's a silly thing to try to attempt. What we're trying to do is what we have done is ask the questions logically why certain things are as they are, and then challenge those with our everyday experience. So I encourage you three to, and of course Glenn knows this by heart, but the other two selectmen to really read through this, ask us more questions, and I think it's appropriate to ask us more questions prior to going to DOT, should you have them. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think all of us agreed it was a great opportunity, didn't we, Glenn and Andrea? That it's a great opportunity right now because the sidewalks are going to be implemented, the new sidewalks, and this is an appropriate time to really revamp and go over and understand. So I think that's where I'll leave that. Glenn, do you have anything else to add?
I would like to say that being on this committee is great. It's a great experience working with you two and Ira, and now living in town and walking around, walking around with the committee, but then just walking around, I see things in a very, very different light now. There seem to be some inconsistencies. There seem to be some areas we can definitely improve, and both of you have said that. It's in that report very clearly. So and it really hit home when I was driving around Sherman and other town. I mean, Sherman's 25 miles an hour, and you know, we are not 25 miles an hour, but we are much more congested in the center of town. And I think that needs to be addressed in particular. And it was through the ARPA subcommittee where I spoke with the 3 private schools, in particular Kent School. And, you know, that was a whole nother committee, but Kent School was very keen on road safety for their students on Bridge Street. That was what they wanted me to convey to that subcommittee. But that's also this subcommittee. So so going up and down Bridge Street, seeing all of this now every day for me is it's very important. So I wholeheartedly agree with the recommendations of this report, and thanks to this committee.
Thanks, Glenn. So Chris, can you email that to the board or to
Email the report.
yeah.
Joyce, I think, can just give you access to our
the
Google
folder?
Drive,
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the folder she set up.
Okay.
and
Great.
it's in there, and it's
Okay.
as well as all the supplements that we were sort of poking through and dealing with. So yes, and if you have trouble, you know, looking at that, let us know, certainly.
Okay. So I think we just went through a similar, very tiny process to what you all are talking about with the roads down on Lake Warramog, and
Okay.
myself, Greg LaCava, the first selectman in Warren, and Jim Brenton in Washington worked with the folks on Lake Warramog because they had a lot of complaints about speed. So we drafted a letter to go to DOT. So I think that's the right process, but I know that everybody needs time to definitely consume the report. So we'll keep it on the agenda for at least one more meeting. And if you guys can plan to come to the next Board of Selectmen meeting, it would be great to have any questions that the board has, and then we'll formulate a letter to go up to DOT with all of these recommendations and look to, set up a meeting with them. Did you consider at all requesting or putting in your recommendations, removing the passing zone southbound on Route 7 as you come out of town? That's why everybody leans on the gas coming out of town, is to take advantage of that passing zone with more, there's more activity happening at the Kent Land Trust fields, and it's a little bit of a skinny area. I just wonder if you guys had considered that, which would, change some of that behavior southbound.
The short answer is no, we did not. We are reluctant to make any significant alterations because the belief is that DOT has a actual standardization program.
Right. And they definitely do.
It's not our role to do that. Our role was to point out incongruities that don't make sense to us, and also to add some specific light on the ground kind of scenarios that DOT may not be aware of. And so, no, I would recommend, however, because I know you plan to send a letter, I would recommend, and they were open to it, I believe, Glenn, weren't they? Having DOT come in and present to them rather than a letter and a process, because this needs to move a little faster if we're going to coincide with signage and with the new sidewalks. I don't think our subcommittee would want to see all of a sudden the sidewalks go up, the old signs go up, or the old thought process of the signs go up, and then we have to go and change them. So if you can make a phone call and see if you can get that guy from DOT out, sit down with them, have them do it, it seems to me they're perfectly willing to engage. And maybe we won't get everything. Maybe we'll get some things. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a reason and rationale as to why there's no school zone at Kent School. I don't know. But I think if this goes through that slow bureaucratic process, will be here next year talking about the same thing and won't even get to any of the other components of it. So,
Well, we're going to go through the bureaucratic process, whether we like it or not, because we're talking about state agency. So there's no end run around what
yes,
they're
I'm not
gonna.
asking for an end run. What I'm asking
Okay.
for, there are specific people who deal with, the DOT breaks this down into a lot of different people.
Yep.
So there's a person who does signs, and there's a person who deals with, the painted lines, and so what I'm.
If
what
there's
what I'm
silos of
recom-
excellence,
That's what I'm.
that's what we
I'm
call them.
Yeah, what I'm recommending is that if you can pick it apart and say, okay, well, let's try and speak to this person who does signs. Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the individual who you spoke to was perfectly willing to do a walk around. And that would
Yes,
give us
I-
more insight rather than making an application for something that has no chance in getting through there. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Oh, no, I spoke with two gentlemen from Connecticut DOT. This, and I forgot their names right here at the moment, but the second fellow I spoke with said he was more than willing to come out, actually.
Right.
So that is true.
Was one of them Joelette?
No.
Okay. I think he works at.
The other thing that I want to
Mhm.
add is the reinstitution of the pylons, the safety. I was on the Board of Selectmen when we decided to take them off. The rationale and reason that we decided to pull them was because two things. One, we were having citizens drag them in and out, which was a liability for the town of Kent. And they were being sometimes left overnight, which was a liability and against DOT regulation. So I just want to reiterate what Andrea had said is we believe, and I think the Board of Selectmen believed, even though we pulled them last time, that they're effective, and therefore we are encouraging the selectmen to set up an actual process. I can tell you that in speaking to some other towns, they've just decided to leave them out all night, even though it's not DOT specs. We don't really care how the town does it. We're just looking and recommending that it become part of our process because it seems to slow traffic down considerably. So that's the only outlier that right now, in my mind, is not a DOT fully sanctioned request that we could do. We could implement it tomorrow.
Right. So is Rick still on the call? Darn.
Yep.
There he is. Sorry, there's a lot of people. Rick, are there any barriers to restarting this weekend? Do we have to get we don't need an encroachment permit, or do we? I don't remember.
I don't know if our previous permit would be still good or not.
Okay, so, but that's all it would take would be an encroachment permit if we need to redo that one.
Yeah, as far as I know, and then somebody to do it.
Right.
That's right. Anyway, I don't think we need to solve this right now. That's one of the easier fixes that I think we could do. And the sooner the better on that one. The other ones are definitely going to have to take considerable more DOT thought, input, and discussion. So analyze that.
So Rick, let's talk with your folks at District 4, and we'll at least at the next Board of Selectmen meeting be able to move on this, putting the barriers or the barrels back out.
Okay.
Thank you. This is really great work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And step 2 and 3 to come.
Before this, Lynn had asked if the report could be put in this meeting's shared folder.
Yeah, I think so. We'll definitely also, Lynn, it will be put in the minutes for this meeting as well.
I just printed it as a PDF or whatever, saved it as a PDF. Do you want me to, do I email it to you, Jean? How do we do that?
If we can access the folder, if you just save it as a PDF and I'll go grab it from your folder.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. It's past his bedtime. Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's all right. Everyone can speak.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
from the
Thanks.
committee. That was very thoroughly done.
Yeah, appreciate all the time.
The lion's work is going to be dealing with DOT.
It will be. So hopefully we've given you points that you can dig into. Thank you.
Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Okay, moving on to 7.2, Glenn. Talk about Town Hall IT company and whether or not to continue with them.
Yes, just to throw out for discussion that talking about the meeting room equipment and hearing now from folks in Town Hall how Yucatec has gone and how things have gone. I mean, some people are happier than others. Is this is Yucatec the company we should continue with? Is this something that we shouldn't continue with? Should we? What do we think about this? Is this do we go with status quo, or do we not? Just a question I'd like to throw out.
Rufus?
I know that there are people that are unhappy with the product and also some of the dealings. And I think when that happens, we should definitely look at alternatives. Whether we go out to bid or whatever, get some idea. I think it is always good anyway to not get too complacent with a company that provides service for the town, whether it's the town insurance company or whatever. I mean, we should on a regular basis go out and explore options. So.
I mean, I'm
So-
sure Yucatec has
Right.
pros and cons. I mean, we could talk about those. I mean, I don't know. Just want to food for thought. What do you think, Jean?
I think rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I would like to actually go through a process where, because a lot of, I hear some things, I don't hear other things, and then days and weeks later, it comes up into the office or Joyce gets some visibility on it. I'd like to get a true understanding of what the complaints are. And work, see if the folks at Yucatec they're good people, and I know that they would want to work with us. They're a longtime vendor. So before I'd like to work on the relationship and find out truly what's wrong with either the relationship or with their work product, so that we can walk through and improve what we have, or decide this isn't going to work, we need to go out to RFP. We also just signed a deal to have them do the installation of the hybrid meeting hardware.
Mhm.
So we need to walk through that process as well.
Yep. So maybe just in future meetings or a future meeting, we could, maybe on paper we could have a list of this is what's working, this is what's not, and really and what's not working. I mean, we need to press them more. Seems to me. We have
Debbie's had her hand up.
a hand up.
Sorry, multitasking.
That's
Debbie.
right.
Yes, Jean, could you clarify whether or not Yucatec insulted us on a phone conversation with you? Is that true? I was not part of that, but I heard about it. He said that the tax collector and the assessor you were part of the conversation. What did he say?
I honestly, I can't even remember when it was. It was a year and a half ago. We were walking through, I don't even remember.
He insulted us, Jean. I remember the hearsay.
Then
I think
by
at
all
that
means,
point-
say it, because Debbie, I honestly don't remember.
Okay, maybe Jen is on. I don't know. Okay, If you don't remember,
I-
that's unfortunate because I, as a public official, I do not like to be insulted. That's
Sure,
it.
none of us do. And I
Well, you didn't defend us, so I think it's
did
time.
after,
That's
I
enough.
did, absolutely, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, I did.
But I am so glad, excuse me, I am so glad you're looking at other companies. He does not have my recommendation.
I think there should be a process where people in the town hall and the different departments can evaluate, like, IT is supposed to be able to provide security and efficiency throughout the building for all the departments. So there should be communication. Gene, you just seem to infer that you don't get communication. So
What do you?
when I've been in the
Jim, what do you
building,
mean?
I've heard complaints. So you should be getting those complaints in a timely fashion, however that should be set up. But they may be nice people, but they have to fit the fabric of the town and
Mhm.
that relationship.
Right.
So,
This would be a good working relationship. Agreed.
and it's worth looking at other ways of, other companies and let Ucatech know. We're, during this coming year, we're going to be looking at a variety of companies and proposals for the maintenance of our IT needs. They can step up to the plate or not. I was, yes, we did hire them to install, but I was not at all impressed with how they presented their proposal. Thought it was very unprofessional in a lot of ways.
Which was one of the reasons why it took so long to get to this point. So,
Moving on to Swift House. We have the subcommittee report, so we'll just defer this to the subcommittee report and keep moving on. Next is Town Hall Large Meeting Room Video Conference System update. I don't have any update. We, obviously made the motion, and we'll follow up with Joyce and get a timeline from them. Moving on to 8.3 and 8.4, sort of at the same time, the job descriptions. So I sent y'all job descriptions from 5 other towns. And they're, some of them are exactly like ours because they got them from that Demis example. Some of them are a little bit different. I think Bethel's is a little bit different. They actually share that their fire marshal is a split position between fire marshal and emergency management director. Did I say Bethel?
Yes.
So their job description is a little bit, it's different because it's, covering both positions. But when you look at Redding's is very, very close to ours. They all cover the same, they all refer to the Title 28. They all refer to, extensive coordination planning, deals with the LEOP, deals with disasters, townwide disasters. So they're all very similar. Zan, I'm sorry, you have your hand up.
I had my hand up because you bypassed Swift House, and I did have something I wanted to report as chair of the committee.
So no, what I said was we're gonna defer out into, because you have a subcommittee report tonight. So we're gonna have it during the subcommittee, your subcommittee report.
Okay, I thought it was here on the agenda.
It is, but because what you wanted to talk about was part of your committee, it made sense to just have it be for the
Okay,
your
because
subcommittee report.
we could dispense with it quickly and then we wouldn't have to have a subcommittee report, but however you want to do it, as long as we get to it.
Yep, we will get to it.
Okay.
So Litchfield's is very similar to what the two that I have created. And again, they all are based on the that Demis example that I also included in your emails.
Now, all of this is very good. This is definitely the information I was looking for. But there's two things. You know, I wasn't able to get to read all of these because I got them this afternoon, and you know, like late this afternoon, and today was super busy at work and all of that, and you know, I think the last meeting, I just asked if these kind of documents could be put in the Google Drive for us, which I was looking yesterday and early this morning, and then we got the email, so thank you. But again, it was such a busy day. I was not able to read all of these documents as much as I would like. But then also, I think they should be in the Google Drive for the public as well.
Right, Joyce is
I know
out
we got-
today, so
Yep.
I needed to email them.
Right,
No,
but
that's okay.
She's out all week, so I couldn't put them in the folder. So I emailed them to you.
again, I agree, it's too, you know, glad to have them, but when they come at 1:30 in the afternoon, that's not enough time. I was working all day.
And
So,
I was waiting for
I
a
have
couple of
not-
towns, so I apologize.
No, it's okay. I mean, this is the stuff we were looking for. Very good information. I just don't want to make a move on it tonight because I would like to sit down and read it. And you know, I don't mind doing this in a special meeting if we're going to do the flag special meeting if we want to move on this relatively quickly because we've talked about this for a couple weeks now. But
Couple
this
of
is
months. We've been talking about this since like March or April.
well,
And
this
I can't hire an emergency management director until I get a job description. And
So,
we have a big hurricane
We're
season
not
coming.
hiring anyone.
again, like,
Appointing, I beg your forgiveness, Rufus,
So-
appointing an emergency management director. And we have hurricane season starts June 1st.
then
I
let's
have nobody to run townwide
let's-
emergencies. I have
then let's-
nobody to run. We, as a town, can't protect our citizens in a townwide emergency with Eric Epstein as the deputy emergency management director.
then let's put this on the agenda for a special meeting along with the flag that we're going to have probably next week. And this will give me time to take a look at this and the public time to look at this, and we'll vote on it.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Every meeting that we don't move on this, and remember, this is a standard. I didn't make this up. I didn't pull this out of my
Gene,
hat somewhere from the sky.
Gene,
I
This is
I
a
understand
basic
all of
standard.
this. I understand all of this, but we haven't had an emergency director since December. So if this was that important, it would have been on in January or February, late March, April. I mean, it's been the last few meetings, but if this were so important, I would have liked to have seen this in January.
And if it was so important, we would have had, somewhere in the 2 weeks since our last meeting, we would have had the information sooner than this afternoon.
Okay.
But we're making progress. This is good. This is the information I was looking for, and I'm willing to actually act on this finally. But it's got to be in the Google Drive in time.
So we'll move on to 8.5 on the pandemic update. So locally, our numbers continue to be up slightly, not at the same trend as the state. But what's concerning is that the home tests that we are giving out, the home tests that are available widely all over the country are not part of the reported data. So we have to assume that the reported data is not in line with what's actually happening out there. Litchfield County continues to be in that high level under the CDC guidance, and we should just continue to be vigilant, wear masks in public whenever possible. Keep up on your boosters. There's a number of booster clinics going on in the area. That's pretty much it from there. BOS subcommittee reports, ARPA needs assessment committee.
We've been meeting. We met yesterday, and we are very close to a finished report. So we're trying to, the committee is trying to figure out how best to present that to us in written form. So we have, I thought that was going to be the last one, but not quite. The next Wednesday, we shall meet again. And I believe that will be the last one, but we are putting the finishing touches on the report. It's been a long, detailed process, and we want to get it right. And it's so once that happens after Wednesday, they are still hoping to have a special Board of Selectmen meeting with us. They would love for us to just talk about this one issue. The report is lengthy. It's more than noise and traffic, certainly, and there are a lot. There'll be appendices and just a lot to look at. So they are really hoping that we focus on this and act quickly. So we're very close.
Affordable Housing Plan Steering Committee, we continue our work. We met last week with the consultant. It's a really great group of folks and very wide, diverse experience. The next community forum we've planned for June 22nd at 7 p.m. And a few weeks ago, because we're getting close to that June deadline that OPM has, that's in the statute. I just wanted to get ahead of that because we knew that we're not going to make that June deadline. So she reached out to OPM, and they let her know that they're looking to make sure towns are continuing forward with good progress. So I notified OPM, I think Tuesday, I sent them a letter that we continue work on our plan. I think at the next meeting, we're going to have a draft plan and anticipate submitting the plan no later than November. So that's where that is right now. So OPM is satisfied with as far as our statutory requirements. So we don't get in trouble with OPM because we don't want to get in trouble with OPM. Broadband Working Group, I'm waiting to hear back from the folks at Northwest Connect on some dates to meet with the committee. Kent Sustainability, I don't know if somebody is here from there. I don't think so. We had a meeting last week and have had really great engagement. Thank you, Melissa Ternisky and Connie Manis. So Land Trust Conservation Commission are really doing a great job collaborating with the team. Land Trust has offered to have the team have an informational table at the Memorial Day Land Trust picnic, which we're going to do. And Melissa sent us some great, what are those called? The bubble makers. So the team's going to be making some of those, and we're going to be handing out some informational material about sustainable CT and information from HRRA on recycling and composting and such. Main Street Noise and Traffic Committee. Do you need anything else on that, Glenn?
Nope, you heard it all.
Streetscape Building Committee, we had, as far as the streetscape project is concerned, I had a kickoff meeting with Mather Corp, and Rick was there as well. Joyce was there to sign the contract and have that initial conversation with all of the Mather partners, two of their principals, the project manager that is going to be our project manager. We're all there, so we were able to connect and talk about sort of next steps. They're currently working on the materials piece. The curbing is really the first piece, which is going to start to flesh out a timeline. So hopefully in the next day or so, we'll have a conference call with them to talk about next steps and curbing.
Good.
Swift House Task Force, Zan, you are up. You're on mute.
Unmute. Okay. We continue to work hard on the report that we will be presenting later on toward the end of summer, early fall. We have a survey that we'd like to get out very soon to try to get some input from the community. But in the meantime, we're very concerned about the fact that Swift House remains closed when there are people that would like very much to use it. So I'd like to read a motion that the task force passed regarding that. We, the Swift House Task Force Subcommittee of the Kent Board of Selectmen, respectfully request that the Board of Selectmen resolve all outstanding issues currently impeding the full or partial reopening of Swift House for continued use by the Kent Chamber of Commerce and Kent Garden Club in particular, and by others as appropriate, by the next regular Board of Selectmen's meeting on June 2nd, and to facilitate that objective by consulting with an authorized ADA coordinator trained to explain ADA rules, interpret requirements, and advise on whether immediate implementation is necessary or not, and by investigating possible extension of the town's liability insurance to cover complimentary use of Swift House by Kent civic organizations for membership meetings, work sessions, and other gatherings not open to the public, or by grants to those organizations to cover the cost of liability insurance if necessary. It should be noted that the issues regarding ADA regulations and liability coverage have been pending since early February, and those affected would be grateful for a speedy resolution. And the other thing that I'd like to note is that both the Garden Club and the Chamber of Commerce have no one that would be working or meeting in the building that's handicapped. So there really is no need for handicap facilities for those two groups in particular. We'd really appreciate it if we could move this along. We've been talking about it for many months now.
Thanks, Ann. Glenn or Rufus?
I mean, is there,
I'd say it's probably time that the town looks to, I don't know what the term is, hire or look into someone who can provide ADA, who is an ADA coordinator. So whether or not we, we ask another town, however we do, I don't know how we do this, but it seems that certainly for the short term, there are folks who would like to use the house, but even for our subcommittee, like if we're trying to figure out what the ultimate use of this building is, we need direction from an ADA coordinator. What do we need? Because it seems we've had meetings before where we can't move forward unless we know exactly what needs to be done. And then after that, we need to know, we need to reach out to contractors and see how much this costs. So whether, clearly there's the issue of right now, but even for the subcommittee moving forward, like we need to know the answers to those questions. We need to know what needs to be done and how much would it cost for us to even write a report that means anything. So
as Lynn Worthington mentioned at a prior selectmen's meeting, her husband, John Worthington, happens to be a qualified ADA coordinator in another town. I have not spoken to him about whether he would want to consult with the selectmen in Kent and with our committee, but that might be an option. But I would,
And
Yeah,
I did speak with John today,
uh-huh,
and with his workload, he wouldn't be able to take on another job, although he did say that he would be willing to sit and advise us, sort of, get us pointed in the right direction. But he could not at this time take on
the
a
full-time.
consultant, a full-time.
Yeah, but he might be able to help, as if I understand you correctly, in advising what the rules are with regard to current use and what the rules are depending upon. I think, as I understood it, but I am certainly not an expert in this field at all, that the use determines what's required as opposed to ownership. So I would love to have someone qualified advise all of us, the selectmen and our subcommittee, so we know what we need to do.
Donna, I see you turned your camera on. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, just hearing what Joe and Stan had said after they met with people at the Swift House, they are willing and able to help, but you guys have to decide what you want to do with the building. Once that's decided, then you can make a determination of what needs to be done. So I think there's a little bit of confusion of what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
And I mean, I just,
Obviously, the town needs to make a decision about the future of the Swift House. But at the moment, there's been no change of use. And there are people that want to be able to get in there. The town had an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. They were charging rent for a space that is fully occupied with all of their storage, but they're not able to get in there and work. And it would be nice if they could. And it would also be nice for the Swift House to be able, and for the town to be able to get the rent that's due on the space that's occupied. Not that that's the primary impetus, but the garden club does a lot of volunteer work for the town. Their supplies, their gathering place, their meeting area for many years has been granted to them by the selectmen of the town. And I think it's inconsiderate at best to expect that they'll continue doing all their volunteer work when they can't even get into their workspace.
has anybody checked the building file to see what the existing use is of that building right now?
The existing use is not for municipal use. There are no municipal offices in the building.
No, you don't understand. Every building has a specific use. Commercial, retail, sales, restaurant, and you need to see what that building has been designated as, so that you can determine whether or not you need to change that use. And then Stan and Joe can say, you know what, it wasn't what you guys have been using it for. So we need to change it to what you want to do, and then we'll tell you what to do. So,
but neither Stan nor Joe is an ADA coordinator that's trained to operate according to the rules of
But
ADA.
I think, Donna, what you're talking about is the use of the building under the planning and zoning regulations.
no, not the planning and zoning regulations, because the town is exempt from planning and
Okay,
zoning.
so
So yeah, I probably don't even have a file on it. But building definitely has, the building department and every structure has a specific use. And that's how you determine what the requirements are with regard to handicap accessibility and ADA. And yes, Joe and Stan both are ADA coordinators, coordinating the state ADA requirements. That's part of their job as a building code official. And that's why John Worthington has that as the building code official. But my question still is, what is the official designated use of that building?
So
And I don't think
doesn't Joe,
anybody's- There, check that.
Wouldn't Joe have that?
It would be
Donna?
in the building file.
Every organization that uses it is a not-for-profit organization. It's been for civic use since
Right,
1970.
you're missing Donna's
You're still
point.
missing the point though, Zan. Is it a business rental use? Is it an
Residential?
office use?
Right.
Is it a retail space where you're selling something from there?
It's not,
I understand that's what you're saying.
it's not,
What I'm saying is that that's a use that designates what is needed by the fire marshal and the building official.
So Donna, my question would be, every building in the downtown district has had a use put on it, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And then who keeps those files?
They're in my office. Nobody's ever come and said, can we look at the building file to see what the use
do
is?
you have?
So
a
there
file?
is a building file in your office about the Swift House.
Oh, absolutely. There's a building file in every building in the town of Kent.
So
Okay,
what?
so
the-
Donna, can you and I sit
building
down
file?
tomorrow morning and go through that file, or Monday morning? I know tomorrow's a sort of crazy day with the town meeting. But can we sit down and just get this question answered, or can
Yeah,
you look in the
I'll just
file
look-
and send us an
I'll look
email
in
and
the
let us know?
file.
Okay, that would be great.
Would you please send it to the committee too? Because no one has raised this question before. It's always been answered, including in an email from Joe Manley, that it's continued use. It's uninterrupted. I mean, it was only interrupted by COVID, but there's been no change of use since 1974 when the building was acquired by the town.
How do you know that?
Well, unless you have that in your file and.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Let's wait
Very
to hear
well.
from, Donna, if you can just do that and then shoot out.
Yeah,
an email to
I'll
us, that would be great.
I'll look into it tomorrow morning.
Okay, and just for clarification, Lynn asked to clarify that John's position as ADA coordinator is separate from his position as building official, just for the record.
Not the same assignment.
So is there any movement that the board would like to make on the recommendation that came from the committee? Do we want to hear from Donna on this sort of vital piece of information?
Can I speak? There's two things here. You know, the committee that I'm on about the future of Swift House, that's kind of one thing. You know, I mean, what is the ultimate use of this going to be? Will it change? Will it not? Should the town keep it? Should it not? These are big questions. Kind of what we're talking about today is
Right now.
right now, you know,
Yeah.
and that's not really the purpose of the subcommittee, you know, so.
But we
Well-
get all of the inquiries, we get all of the calls, we get all of the complaint, we get, and we'd like to be able to help move this forward. And we'd actually like the selectmen to move it forward, because we've had these conversations for many months now. And the two recommendations here seem quite straightforward. Get a trained, qualified ADA coordinator to consult with the selectmen and the committee and to advise on what the rules actually are for a building that is in continued use, as Swift House has been. And the second recommendation is to investigate with the town's insurance provider what it would take, what it would cost, if it's possible, to incorporate the same rules and regulations that you have for town hall when organizations have events there or lectures there or, activities, organizations that are not a part of town government.
So Zan, you just mentioned something about inquiries and requests and complaints that you're getting from citizens. I haven't seen anything from your committee on that. And if you're getting inquiries from folks on the building, it needs to come. It needs to
Well,
come to
I
Joyce, or it needs to come to me. It needs to get communicated to where we can address
I
it.
believe that Nancy Schaefer came and met with you and
We had a-
tried, yeah, and tried to impress you with their urgency to be able to have a place to work. We had hoped you'd come to the annual meeting of the Garden Club because.
I was sick.
Yeah, I know you were
I was
sick.
sick. Yeah.
Couldn't make it.
My
But-
plan was to come.
Yeah, but, you know, they deserve a place to work. They do a lot for the town. And they wrote a
Sure.
letter to you on the 2nd of March.
Yep.
And they haven't really had a proper response since then, or a
We-
resolution to the issues that have prevented them from continuing to work as they always have in Swift House.
So you said there were requests and
Well, I've been in touch with people from the chamber. They
And
have, yeah, and
I've been in contact with Dave Schreiber, and I asked him specifically if they were interested or needing or wanting to use the office. And we went back and forth in email, and he said eventually they would like to be able to use it, but they're happy to wait for us to work out the ADA issues.
Well,
So that was my communication with Dave Schreiber directly.
I mean, the person who had been hired and was supposed to be working there has been in touch with me, and she's anxious to try to get in there. She's not handicapped. She's perfectly happy to go anywhere to meet with anybody who is.
I know that you went through this with Joyce at the Swift House, at a previous Swift House meeting, but just saying things like, we know that she's not handicapped, it's inappropriate and it's improper, Zan, to be saying those sorts of things. We don't know who's disabled, who's not disabled. As a class under the ADA, there are plenty of disabilities that none of us can see. So we need to be respectful of everybody, and just
That's
talking
why
in those terms let me just finish. Talking in those terms is it's just troublesome, and we should steer clear of it.
Okay, well,
When we're having these conversations.
but I know that's been a concern, that we do not have a handicapped restroom yet in the building. It was in our report that we submitted to the Board of Selectmen in February of 2021. And it was on the list of things that we recommended and would like to do. It hasn't happened yet. You know, there are other things that need to be determined. But I only mention that because there isn't a particular need for an ADA compliant restroom or entrance for any of the people who have requested that they be able to continue using the building.
So the safety of our residents and visitors is our number one priority, right? We have that responsibility as the Board of Selectmen and the town government. And town attorney did provide advice on that, which I communicated, but I'll read it again. His recommendation was to consult with an ADA fluent architect to determine precisely what modifications can feasibly, reasonably, and economically be made to achieve ADA compliance so as to avoid inadvertent non-compliance. I think that the board should follow the advice of our town attorney. We asked him for advice. I've never heard an attorney say, you know what, you're going to pay me for my advice, but don't take it. We trust in our town attorney to provide us with a solid opinion. No, is he an ADA authority? No, he's a municipal attorney, but he has access to a huge amount of resources within his sort of war chest of other attorneys across the state. And he reached out to them, and this was his opinion based on reaching out to attorneys all over the
That's why
state.
we tried to make it clear in our request to the three of you that these are not public events. We are not asking you to open it to the public. We are not asking to have exhibitions or performances or lectures that that would be open to the public. We are only specifically talking about 2 organizations who have been working in this building for a considerable amount of time and would like to continue to do that, neither of which require handicap access or a handicapped restroom. And they would only be for their membership. I mean, for the membership of the garden club and for the office use of someone hired by the chamber.
So on the piece about liability insurance, we also had feedback from Kerma and from town attorney telling us what a non-governmental and a governmental entity is, and that Kerma is very clear that a non-governmental entity would not be covered by our liability insurance. But I did reach out to Kerma to ask them whether the town could pay for a non-governmental entity's liability insurance, and they'll get back to me.
Okay.
So I think,
It's very clear right in our policy that
I think
what is
that based on what the committee asked for, what we should be doing is getting an answer. Now that Donna has, said that start with the use of the building, what it is right now. And we should probably set up a meeting with Joe, who, if Donna said he's ADA trained, he has that knowledge, and try
I
to
don't
get.
believe that's true. I think I could be wrong, but I think there's a separate classification, which is what Lynn Worthington was saying to Jean. There's a separate classification for ADA coordinators and for building inspectors. And although building inspectors have some familiarity with the architectural requirements, they don't have particular familiarity with the rules and what qualifies and when you have to do it and to what extent you have to make changes. And I think it would behoove us, the town, to actually speak with someone like John Worthington, if he's willing to consult with you, who is totally informed, knows the rules, can advise on how and when they need to be instituted. I mean, that's his training, that's his background. He's whatever that you have to do to become an ADA coordinator, it's not the same as being a building inspector.
Lynn, you have your hand up.
I do. It's what Zan just said. It is not one and the same. The building official administers the state building code. It's the state of Connecticut, what they choose to have as their building code. The ADA coordinator is administering the federal regulations, the federal law that regarding to ADA. There are times when they overlap, but they don't have to. So, I mean, it is not one and the same. And Donna is not correct saying that a building official knows everything about the ADA. I mean, that's just not, or whatever you said. I apologize if I'm misquoting you, but it's not one and the same.
I understand.
And
it's not
Joe
one
has
the
said
same.
he is not the ADA coordinator.
He
said
is,
that.
I know. And what he said was he administers the ADA code under the state of Connecticut as the building official for the state. He never said he was an ADA coordinator. He administers the building code under the state ADA code. And yes,
There's
you're
no
right. An
state
ADA
code. It's a
there
federal
is a
code.
state there. I don't want to get into semantics. There's two separate things, the federal ADA and the state. As a state building official, he is responsible for knowing that portion of the ADA code that is administered under the state. And yes, there are federal ADA coordinators that administer the whole program. The building officials are responsible for the state portion of that. And that was said to both Zan and everybody that was at that meeting, that that's what his role in this is.
So why don't we ask him how much he would charge us to be the ADA coordinator? It seems like an easy question to me.
I don't think he wants to be the ADA coordinator because he works for 2 other towns.
Right.
He's
I
not
wonder if
just
he's
an
been
employee of Kent. I'm sorry?
I wonder if he's been asked how much he would charge.
And I
don't
actually
believe that
wrote it
that's-
in my notes to ask him and see
But
if,
Lynn,
what his thoughts are.
Lynn, could you answer the question of whether there are particular requirements that have to be fulfilled in order to become an ADA coordinator that John had to go through and that?
I don't know that.
Yeah, and Zan, I don't think it's fair to ask Lynn to represent her husband on a meeting where she's attending as a member of the public. I think it's not
I just
fair to
would
Lynn.
like to know what the difference is. And, you know, I know there is a difference.
So,
That's why we were recommending that you meet with an actual person who has the title and the qualifications and the background and understanding of the rules to advise you on what's required.
We have one building in town that seems to not necessarily fit neatly into code or anything else on one level. And on the other level, you've got groups who have used it and want to continue to use it. And is there a way that we could have limited use, limited access, so that the groups could use it and we don't open it to other people until such time as it is fully compliant?
That's the recommendation.
You know,
so we have communications from Randy and from town council saying that we should not open this building until we get these, hang on, Zan, until we get this worked out. The safety of everybody is our priority. And I couldn't possibly agree to trying to slip through a crack just to appease one group. I would love to find another solution, a temporary solution for the garden club. And I think that we can pretty easily find a temporary solution for the garden club. I don't think that we should, I don't think, and I'm not comfortable with throwing public safety out the window so we can open a building that I don't think should be opened to the public. And the public by means, I mean, whether it's a public event that anybody and everybody is invited to, or public meaning a civic group holding their meetings there. It's just, at the top tier for me, it's safety. And whether it's Jean Speck's pink hubcap painting civic club with 7 members, hang on, Zan, with 7 members, or it's a fully open public, there are public events that are going on, doesn't make any difference in my mind to safety. Whether it's 5 specific identified people, or if it's 55 non-specific unidentified people, it doesn't make any difference to me. We have to do what's best for the safety of everybody in town.
Can you explain to me why you feel it's a public safety issue? I don't understand the safety risk that's involved with the request that's being made.
You've got entry into a building that is on one side, 2 big steps, on the other side, 5, 7 steps onto a porch, and then another big step into the building. You've got hallways that are teeny tiny. We can't even begin to talk about the second floor.
And all the years since 1974 that it's been used this way, have there been any public safety risks?
Inadvertent non-compliance is not defendable. It's,
Are there any public safety risks involved with these two organizations that are making this request?
it's not about each specific organization. It's about what we do for the whole.
Why is it not about these two organizations?
Because in a sense, then we're discriminating against everybody else and we're
Not
just
if you
allowing
have-
these
you
two
have a-
entities.
not
I
if-
don't get to pick and choose who I want to keep safe. It's my
But if-
responsibility to keep everyone in the town safe in an equal manner.
What I would.
And honestly, that's what Title II and ADA is all about.
But what was explained to me is if the town has other places, other opportunities for people to meet that are ADA compliant, that you can direct organizations in those directions and make those available to them. It's like if you have a housing development and you have 3 ADA compliant units and the rest are not. If somebody needs an ADA facility, you can direct them to those that are available. But if you have others, it doesn't mean you can't rent them to people that don't need ADA. It's not a universal thing. I mean, it's not.
It absolutely is a universal thing. The ADA is very clear that it is a universal thing, that not every human being needs the accommodations afforded under the ADA regulations, but we are required to make it available.
You are required in
have
a
to-
municipal building that's for municipal use because you have to have town hall open to anyone that needs to come in to the town clerk's office or to a meeting there or whatever. This building is not in municipal use. It's in community civic organization use.
It is a municipal
and
building that falls under Title II.
And until the adjustments are made to make it ADA compliant for public use, I cannot begin to understand why it can't be available to these organizations for limited use. It's hard for me to understand.
So that we can move forward, we'll wait to hear back from Donna. I'll talk to Joe. I'll send Joe an email to open up the conversation about the ADA coordinator position. And then we'll need to seek
Will you-
out an ADA professional.
Will you consult
can-
with an ADA trained professional who knows and understands the rules?
Of
So
course.
that we can all be better informed?
Right, there's no point in not doing that. I think
Yeah.
that's sort of obvious to find a professional and we have to see if it's going to cost money and then we have to figure out how we're going to pay for that.
Well, from what Rufus said, I think that John would make himself available for consultation. He won't take the job permanently because he already has enough to do, but it could be a very informative meeting.
We can talk to him.
Mhm.
And then I'll wait to hear back from Kerma. I'll report back on the Kerma question about liability insurance.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. Anything further on report, Zan?
No, not at this time.
Great. Selectmen's reports. Sorry, I have a contact lens that's not happy. Rufus or Glenn?
Park and Rec met today and we've hired somebody to run Camp Kent this summer. And
Great news.
so that's good news. And That's
Is
pretty much,
ASP director working out? Tom, it's working out well so far?
oh, the ASA director,
ASP, yep,
ASP, he's breaking in.
great.
So that's also good. So I think Jared's looking forward to being able to really focus on things that he needs to focus on and building a support group. So
Yeah, I think getting that ASP director filled, which was elusive for, gosh, 2 years, and getting Camp Kent in the hopper is huge. I think we're doing a great service to the families that want camp, need camp.
right. So I mean, you know, details will be forthcoming, but we did hire somebody to be the camp director, and now we just have to build the program. And as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty exciting that we're
And I don't
gonna-
know if everybody knows, but Jared penned a agreement or a deal with Club Getaway. So that's where Camp Kent will be held this summer, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Big, huge stride, I think. Anything else, Rufus, on your end?
no,
Who's the Park and Rec director now?
Question.
Glenn, anything further?
Nope, I'm good.
So just a couple of things. You too. Just to follow up on the Lake Warramog traffic, we've had a number of meetings over the spring with some residents out there that have a citizen action group. They're the Lake It Slow folks. And so the Warren and Washington CEOs, 3 of us worked together, and we're going to implement some mitigation efforts for speeding around the lake that will begin next week, that each town's DPW is going to take a part to do. We're going to move one of the speed enforcement signs down there for some of the time, and then the other 2 towns will also cycle through them. So that will begin next week. And we've also sent a letter to DOT to start a conversation about some mitigation that we're looking for in that area. I attended the State Emergency Management Symposium and spent the day hearing about it was a day of bad news. So there were great presentations about school security and the statutory responsibilities of all of the schools to have school security plans. There's a lot of conversation about flooding, flood mitigation. They always wrap up with a very famous hurricane forecast by one of the staffers. And there was a lot of talk about cybersecurity. And Demis has a program for municipalities to assess their cybersecurity posture. And we're going to be participating in that. So I followed up with our regional coordinator and waiting to hear back on what the process is. Lynn Harrington, you have your hand up. Sorry, I missed you.
Hi. May I speak on something?
Sure.
Okay. Just regarding the Park and Rec ASP director, there is no motion to hire that person. And also in the bylaws, it says the Board of Selectmen shall act on the commission's recommended hiring of the after school program director, Camp Kent director, and Emery Park waterfront supervisor. So I haven't seen that either, but I understand that person is working already.
So Rufus,
Sorry.
can you follow up on that?
I will.
Okay, and get back to us.
We may have to have another special meeting if that's.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. So waiting to hear back from them on how the program works. I also attended a meeting with the new state emergency management director at the regional fire school, with Eric Epstein, the deputy emergency management director. And we had a sort of surprise attendance by Deputy Commissioner Brenda Bergeron. And it was really a rare opportunity. There were only maybe 10 of us in the room. It was EMDs and CEOs. And it was all Northwest Corner folks. And it was really a rare opportunity to have like almost one-on-one FaceTime with senior leadership from a state agency. You don't get that. And I think that we had a lot of good questions for them, but I think even more importantly, we gave them a lot of good insight about emergency management in the rural world, and talking about, they joked about just the trip out here, which the fire school is north of Torrington. So it's very sort of remote up where the fire school is. And we joked with them, just imagine coming out here in February. And so we talked about Storm Isaias and a number of other storms, and the creativity and, the sort of just getting it done that we have to do in rural. And I think the two of them being from much more suburban setting, it was sort of eye-opening to them. We're waiting to hear back from Jen Heaton Jones at HRRA on a grant that she applied for on our behalf for a composting pilot program through DEEP. So we should hear about that next month. The Memorial Day Parade is on, and we're working with Brent Kallstrom, I want to read a message from him. So we're helping him this year to assist with logistics for the parade, and they will be retiring from running the parade, the post. They have an aging average age for their membership, and it's become more and more difficult to get all this to happen. It's a lot of pieces that have to all fall into place. They want to refocus their commitment on veterans and the direct activity for their veterans. So they are handing off the parade to the town. And Jared I asked, and he offered to help with this transition year, and he's done some of the pieces on the checklist. And I think that would make sense to have it land in Park and Rec going forward for next year. Brent and Andy Osif, who ran it for decades, have given us a really good plan that we can take and run with. They have checklists and contacts and all the pieces and parts. And if we follow that plan, we put on a successful parade. So we'll thank them for their many, many years of providing us with the parade and sort of go from there. I attended my first staffing committee of the fire department last week, and the ambulance chief, Bonnie Donzella, notified the group at that meeting that they've got a couple of additional EMS certified members who will be coming off regular schedule June 1st and July 1st, meaning either volunteers need to try to fill these shifts, and it's over 10 shifts. I want to say it's 14 shifts. So they're going to try to fill them with the membership, or they'll have to go out to ERM for filling. And that obviously was followed by a lengthy conversation about where do we go? Where does the fire department go? Where does the town go? As part of their charge for their committee, we also talked about sleeping quarters, because there's data out there that speaks to the need for providing somewhere for public safety workers to have proper rest. So there's conversation about where they could find that space in the firehouse. And then we spent the rest of the time talking about the different staffing models from fire department stays as is and converts to all hiring for the EMS side. But this staffing committee is to discuss both the EMS and fire staffing. That was one model. Another model is to break the two apart, create an association, like an ambulance association that would be a standalone, what we would call a third-party EMS organization that might be connected to the town, might not be connected to the town, that would provide paid EMS staffing. And then another model was to look at a municipal model. And so the homework for me was to just reach out to some other fire departments in the state to get some costs on what that municipal model would look like. And so we'll meet again in another couple of weeks, but it's concerning. So I imagine that the fire department will be coming back to us, back to the Board of Finance, to continue this conversation, because this is going to change things, this July 1 piece where there's going to be a lot more holes in that schedule. So that was that initial meeting. And apparently there's some at the BIA, at the Bureau of Indian Affairs, has undertaken a rulemaking change that has potential issues and could affect our town. So I reached out to Jeff Sinkowitz for a meeting. So that's sort of my foray into, we'll likely be planning a special meeting, possibly end of next week. So just keep your eyes peeled on your work email so that you can respond to Joyce when she sends out a request for a meeting, because we'll need to make that happen quickly. So I think that's everything that I have. And barring anything else.
So we may have a special meeting next week already. So so we talked about the flagpole and job
Yep.
descriptions.
Yeah, I got to get from Jeff a date.
Okay.
Hopefully I'll get that tomorrow, and you might see something come out for dates as early as tomorrow, but we have
Okay.
to see. And it's a very busy day tomorrow, so no promises there.
Okay.
Apple says it's 8:34, and I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everybody.